Well, you know, it was interesting because there was a really good core of R&B funk coming out of Brooklyn. Most of the funk groups, like your Cameo and Confunction, those guys were, you know, based out of either Ohio or California, you know. So it was kind of interesting to get the mix in. And let's not forget Rick James, of course, you know. It was kind of an interesting, I think, mix that was coming up out of the Brooklyn, including Crown Heights Affair, BT Express, Brass Construction, all of us making like a contribution to, you know, what is basically R&B funk music. We were not as well accepted in the so-called urban contemporary field. We were actually, New York City was the last regional area to really play our music. It wasn't until Call Me that we started getting some burn in our own hometown. So it was the South, baby, that embraced us. Everybody south of, let's say, Philly. And I know Philly is not south, but certainly south of New York. And so we were embraced really by, you know, southern New Jersey, Philly, D.C., you know, and beyond. Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina really embraced that funk sound.
And I'm sure they did, because I know Call Me probably got a bunch of play at family reunions, cookouts, and on blue light basement parties.
Yeah, that song got me in a lot of trouble some places, too, because people were like, you know, how dare you? But I'm glad that people took it in the spirit in which it was meant, you know. It wasn't meant to be a disrespect to women or relationships, but it was just kind of a fun song that Randy Muller wrote. And that catchy, you know, phrase, call me, here's my number and a dime, you can call me anytime, just kind of clicked with everybody countrywide and across the world. So we were happy that people took it in the spirit in which it was meant.
So it didn't have any sexual undertones?
No, not at all. It was meant to be, you know, kind of a spoof, tongue-in-cheek sort of type thing. And many people came to me because it did reflect real-life situations. You know, it was happening in certain people's lives. But, again, we didn't get too much flack for it.
I guess they made a wrong call at that payphone out in the corner because, you know, they didn't have cell phones back then. They were having the Zach Morris's and, you know, they were like Hunk of Brick. And that song, Call Me, was actually a #1 R&B hit, and it was a top 30 pop hit, number 26.
Yeah. It was by far our most successful single and album, the Skyline LP. You know, really kind of put us on the map, so to speak, as far as countrywide recognition, which we really, really appreciated. And it was very much a big surprise to us. You know, the song came out, and the next thing we knew, about 2 weeks later, we were getting a call from Soul Train. And Don Cornelius was like, we got to have you guys on. So we, you know, it took us very much by surprise, and we really owe gratitude to all of our fans across the country for making that song our biggest #1 hit. And I'm happy to say they still play it on the radio even today. So it's great.
Just goes to show you that good music doesn't go away and it still lives on.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
And now, we were explaining earlier that there was kind of like, you know, New York really wasn't embracing you guys until Call Me. So was it more like everybody else around the country? It was like funk music was pretty much hot down south, where everywhere else it was 9 to 5, Jerry Curl Juice, Billy D. Williams, Colt 45 music.
Right. That's exactly right. And, you know, again, it was the style of Randy Muller and Solomon Roberts. And also the musicianship. I don't want to belittle at all the musicianship of the band members, Solomon, Roberts, Gerald LeBone on bass. I mean, Jarrell had a way of thumping on that bass, you know, which was premier funk. Butch Sierra on lead guitar. That boy could play lead and back, you know, and rhythm. without a problem, with this very smooth transition. And then we had Tommy McConnell on drums, so and a host of keyboard players. We had 30 different keyboard players over the history of Skyy. So we owe, the sound really was the result of how those guys translated the writings of Solomon Roberts and Randy Muller.
All right, and after the Skyline album, you guys put out 2 more albums from South Soul, Skyjammer, Skylight, then in '86, From the Left Side. Now, tell me about after From the Left Side, you guys kind of took a hiatus, then came back out of the box with Start of a Romance on Atlantic back in '89.
Yeah, we did. Start of a Romance is interesting because it was the first song that was written by someone other than Solomon and Randy that went to #1. The Start of a Romance was actually co-written by Tommy McConnell and a good friend of his by the name of Joe. His last name escapes me at the moment because it was 25 years ago, but I do want to give credit where credit is due. And Tommy kind of brought us into a different sort of style sound with his penning of that song, and I think it kept us sort of modern. You know what I mean? It brought us into the '90s and in competition and able to keep up with the rest of the music that was coming out at that time.
Right, and with that album, like I said, I was listening to the compilation CD that I was sent, and some of the cuts off of Start of Romance, it seemed like you guys were pretty much the only urban contemporary group, in my opinion, that were able to embrace the New Jack Swing sound and basically kind of mold into it, while a lot of urban contemporary artists had a hard time making that transition and being modern with today and keeping what got them there.